So, I wanted to conduct an experiment, so I bought this. The reason I bought this is it's so cheap, you can almost buy it by accident. And I didn't want another expensive pedal sitting in the drawer, didn't need that at all. But within a few minutes of conducting my little experiment, I realised that this wasn't an experiment at all, and this was actually something that was not going to live in the drawer, so I upgraded to this. It's not that the Behringer didn't produce good results, it did, it produced very good results. The issue is that at 0 there is no detent, so you can't reset easily to the 0 mark. It's a kind of almost like a haphazard guess. But if you want a cheap EQ pedal, this'll do fine. It feels a little bit plasticky, as do most of the Behringer pedals, but they perform very, very well. But the Boss pedal is pretty much going to the next level. It feels really heavy, it feels professional. The faders have a lovely feel to them and very satisfying, I must say, if that means anything, I'm not sure. But they do have that center detent, so if you want to reset to 0 on any of the sliders, you can do that with relative ease. So, what was my experiment? Well, my weapon of choice when it comes to amplifiers are multi-channel amps. Given a choice and the circumstances, this is the baby I would wheel out. This is my favourite TSL 100. It's not everybody's favourite Marshall, but I love it. I haven't tried any of the JVM amps. That's something I'd really like to do. I played one once, very briefly, and was pretty blown away with it, but they're very, very expensive, and I've got about 4 Marshall amps sitting in the garage, so I can't really justify buying a new one. And for me, I don't like chopping around amplifiers too much. It takes a while to get to know how an amplifier works and responds to your playing. And once you build up that relationship with an amplifier, I don't like to swap it around too much. The other multi-channel amplifier I have is a Mesa Boogie Mark V. This is it here. This is a crazy amp. The clean channel is fantastic. It's a Fender style clean sound in channel 1, and that's what I like. I just love the Fender style clean sounds. And the good thing about this amp is it's almost the perfect size. It's not as big as a Fender Twin, but it's big enough to create a big sound, and it is incredibly loud. So it's going to give you a lot of headroom. And headroom in an amplifier is everything. I don't understand this small amp trend that's going on at the moment. If you've got no headroom, it's going to affect your dynamics, and dynamics are everything in music. Yeah, headroom. Headroom rules. As for the other channels on the Boogie, I like channel 3. You can get a really good lead sound out of that. Sort of I don't do anything too heavy in terms of distortion. I like a kind of a Steely Dan kind of lead guitar sound. Distortion scares the hell out of me. I only use as little of it as is necessary and then wind it back a little bit more, which makes you play a bit harder. But channel 2 on this amp is, well, I don't know what it's for. I can't get any kind of decent sound out of channel 2 on this amplifier at all. It's a mystery to me. What I need is a good Marshall crunch sound. AC/DC, Thin Lizzy, Led Zeppelin, that kind of sound. And I can't get it out of this amp. And I've tried. I've wasted so much time on it. But I love the clean sound, as I say. And so I keep this amp for that reason. And again, it's just loud and the clean channel's fantastic. So there's my problem. I need to create a Marshall type sound with my Boogie, but I have to do it using pedals. And that journey has resulted in this. A whole bunch of distortion pedals and overdrive pedals and low gain boost pedals that are all really good in their own rights, but even the best of them are only 90% of what I'm looking for. And the issue is nearly always not the nature of the distortion as such, but the nature of the tone control. Now, everybody's going to have their own opinion about this because it depends how you play, how hard you hit the string, what amplifier you're using, what kind of music you're playing, the degree of gain you're using, what gauge string you're using, pick you're using. So what might sound great to me, to you, might not sound so great. What sounds great to you, to me, might not sound so great. It's a very personal choice to each and every one of us. Otherwise, we just all buy the same distortion pedal. And the market is flooded with pedals. So here's the thing. This is the pedal that I use the most to create that kind of crunchy chord sound. It's a Fender Pugilist distortion pedal. The only issue I have with it is it's kind of a little bit light for my tastes, and I want to emphasize that again, just for my tastes, in the low mids. It has a bass boost switch, and that's kind of cool, but it doesn't solve the issue here. So my experiment was, can I take this pedal from 90% to closer to 100% by sticking a graphic equalizer pedal post, that means after, the distortion pedal. After just about a minute of experimenting with the Behringer pedal, I pushed up the 400 Hz slider just a little bit. It gave me almost exactly the sound that I was looking for. I was pretty much blown away, which is why I went out and immediately bought the Boss GE-7. So now I've been having fun for days, resurrecting all these distortion pedals in my drawer that are just gathering dust to see if I can create better results with them. And in almost every case, I'm getting spectacularly better results from every pedal, with the exception of one, which is a T-Rex. I think it's called a Moller. I don't understand this pedal. It's a very, very weird one. I bought it because it was expensive and I didn't have any expensive distortion pedals. And I thought if I bought an expensive distortion pedal, it would be better. And that wasn't true at all. So in the opening track to this video, all the gainy sounds were used with either the Boss G7 or the Behringer pedal. And I've made adjustments to various pedals in the video, obviously using the Pugilist. Another one I've used, which is a very interesting pedal. I haven't quite got to the bottom of it yet, but it sounds really, really good. It's this Joyo King of Kings, which is obviously a clone of something else. And another one I really like is this one, which is, the trade name on it is Bayang, but I think Akai did it as well. And they're cheap as chips. But for a straight ahead, kind of Steely Dan, not too much gain, lead sound, it sounds spectacular to me. They cost virtually nothing. You can pick these up on eBay for, well, peanuts. And as I've said earlier, I'm really not a big fan of distortion. I use it when and as and when you have to, and as little of it as possible. If I want to create long legato notes, what I do is I stick a compressor in front of the distortion, and that gives me the note length. That way I can keep the gain as low as possible, and that way I hear the guitar string. I'm not listening to the distortion. I want to hear more string than distortion. Okay, I really want to hear those guitar strings, but the compressor gives me note length that I need to play good legato playing. For this video, I took my Boss CS3, which is my go-to compressor, love it, and it didn't work. For the first time in, I don't know, must be over a decade being nailed to my pedal board. Took it off, didn't work, don't know why. Needed to crack on with the video. So another thing I had in the drawer was this, a Behringer compressor. Never used it before, bought it on impulse. Again, cheapest chips, you can almost buy them accidentally. It's a CS400. Plugged into it, it sounds so good. It sounds really, really good. Does exactly what I want it to do. Squashes the sound, gives you note length. Great. And it worked, so that's what I used for the video. So what I'm using the equalizer pedal for is tuning the tonal output of my distortion pedals to create the sound that I'm looking for. It kind of echoes how a Marshall amp works. So the amp creates the distortion or the gain first in the preamp, and then it piles that sound into the tone stack. And that's pretty much what I'm emulating here. And that's, I think, why Marshall sounds so good in creating really good, gainy, crunchy sounds. On the downside, it means that it's an extra pedal on my board. And there's another issue that when I want to use the distortion pedal, I've got to turn the distortion pedal and the graphic equalizer on at the same time. So I need some kind of loop pedal to make all that happen. And something like this, a simple little box, but it makes the magic happen. The downside is that I've gone from one pedal to 3 pedals. So overall, major result for me. I'm really excited about this and looking forward to experimenting with the GE-7 a little bit more, see what else I can do with it. I'm excited about trying this as a sort of a booster pedal by jacking up the gain or the level control a little bit and maybe boosting the top frequencies, turning it into a kind of like a treble boost. The one thing I find a little odd with the GE-7 and the Behringer for that matter is the amount of gain that you can either boost or cut on each slider. It's 15 dB, and that is an enormous amount of gain increase on each slider. As I say, I can't think of any situation that you would ever use that amount of gain. I think 5 or 6 or maybe 7 dB would have been more than enough, and what that would have given you is more effective travel on the slider, because even a small push on the slider will give you a very, very big effect. Another immediate use I can see for this pedal is that the bottom fader, which is at 100 Hertz, well, that's pretty much where your bass player lives. And if you've been shouted at by as many bass players as I have to get the hell out of their party, then this will be a very useful tool, because you can use this as like a high pass filter and chop off that offending low frequency, which gets in the bass player's way. Now, if you're doing this on your own in your bedroom and you're not playing with a bass player, then what that will do is it'll make your sound thinner, and you might go, oh, where's all my bottom end gone? But if you're playing with a band, the bass player's covering that part of the show, and you should avoid overlapping with the bass player because, well, there's no point. You're just getting in each other's way. That's what you do in a studio, in a mix. You would high pass out the guitars and let each instrument exist in its own frequency band, so to speak. It makes the overall sound less muddy, and that's true for live as it is true for recording. And it keeps bass players happy, which is a very important consideration. So, go and buy one, I'd recommend. Either buy the Behringer because it's cheap, or buy the Boss because, well, it's just really, really good. I can't believe that I'm actually so late to this party. I've seen other videos on YouTube about people discussing this particular issue, and it really does work. It's, yeah, it's great.